Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I see for some reason WebEx is not showing us names. It just says attendees. Is that for everybody or just me?
It's for everyone.
Okay. I'm not sure why. And it's giving me a notification. Attendees' real names have been kept private. Why? Welcome everybody to your WowMates, which is Wollongong Climate Symposium. We are really excited to be organizing this 2 hour. I want to call it bonanza because we really have a fantastic lineup of amazing presentations by our undergraduate all the way through to our PhD students. And of course, some of our faculty members from different faculties have come together to share what they're doing and how they're supporting fight against climate change. So we are hoping that this is a platform that serves as a pivotal moment for all of our students and staff at the university to engage in this really meaningful discussion surrounding sustainability initiatives, efforts, and ideas. I think we are really timed aptly because as the session is marking the conclusion of COP28 today in Dubai, UAE, this virtual event aims to channel the global momentum that has been happening for the last 2 weeks. And we've actually been a witness to it right here in Dubai towards climate action into actionable plans at the local level. With me today, I will also have Mustafa. Are you there? Again, I only see attendees, so I have no idea who's here.
Hi, Miss. Yes, I am here.
Okay, great. So with me hosting this is also going to be one of your own, Mohammed Mustafa. He is a student at the university and an absolute champion for climate. Anything to do with climate change initiatives, sustainability efforts, he's at the forefront. And he was one student from our university who was invited and in fact represented University of Wollongong in Dubai at COP28 and made a very nice presentation yesterday. So Mustafa, a few words before I invite our keynote speaker.
Sure, Miss. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you all for coming here today. Honestly, it's amazing to see how much momentum we're able to make at a university level and having all the professors, whoever we do want to have being a speaker here. It's honestly amazing. And a lot like how we've seen at COP28, the different stakeholders coming together, I think at our university level, it's important to involve both the students, professors, faculty, and whoever else we can. So again, I want to say thank you all for being here and can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. So just to give you guys an overview, these are the amazing lineup of speakers that you're going to see today. So from the students' side, we have, of course, Mohammed Mustafa, who's leading the way. Then we've got Akshita Bhatia, Sami Sheikh. Sami it's really interesting. He was with UOWD, now he's with UOWA, and he happened to be in Dubai for the break, and we've kind of got him to come and participate. So we're really excited to welcome Sami here as well. Minatullah, of course, Neha Hemnani, and then our PhD students, Basila Sali and Vidhi Sharma. I think some of you may know Vidhi because she's also an instructor at our university. And from the faculty side, besides myself, we are also going to have Dr. Carol from the engineering department, Dr. Jay Wong. I am hoping I've said it right. I don't know, please correct me if I haven't. From the Faculty of Business. Dr. Stephen is going to be giving us the welcome note from the engineering faculty again, and Mr. Nawar Hakim, who is the new executive director for academics. This is a lineup of what the 2 hours are going to look like. As you can see, it's really packed, but the way we've done it is we have snippets of presentations, 5 minutes, no more. And then we will have a quick discussion about the presentation, about the topic that was presented. and then we'll move on to the next topic. So the topics are really engaging and interesting, and we do hope everybody who's attending will really enjoy what we have been able to put together for you, actually in a very short time. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would like to invite, my video's gone topsy-turvy, hold on. There we go. There's my face. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Nawar Hakim to kindly say a few words as a welcome note.
Thank you, Dr. Zainab. Appreciate the invitation. I am honored to be here. This is the last day of COP28, and this is a special occasion. I will not speak much about the success of this event because you have been part of it. You have participated in many of the great workshops on climate action, on alternative energy, on sustainability. So you are part of the success of COP28. And I will just make a few short observations based on my personal experience and interacting with COP28. I was lucky to attend the Sheikh Zayed Prize for Sustainability to high schools. I think about 12 high schools were awarded each $150,000 for their submissions on how to help the environment. And I was really impressed by the presentations of the schools. And I feel I need to share a few examples because this will give us hope that we can mitigate the climate change crisis, and hopefully we can save our planet. So one interesting example came from a high school in Peru, and they made a proposal about cleaning up the LA Mujica channel, which is impacted by industrial waste and polluted water. Quite an undertaking. The second example comes from Pakistan. And this is from the Port Education High School, where they propose to utilize the big school yard in order to use it for farming and healthy well-being.
Wow.
The third example is local. This is international school, where they made a proposal on how to conserve energy and water usage. The last example comes from Nigeria. And it is from the Gwani Ibrahim High School. And they propose to build a solar system to help farmers in drying out crops after harvesting, because they tend to spoil. So here, I mean, great examples, all demonstrating collaboration. I mean, for any proposal to win, the high school needs to demonstrate working with industry partners, working with government, working with NGOs and NPOs. So just a reminder that partnership is goal number 17 in the UN SDG system development goals. So here, speaking of partnerships, we come to Wollongong, and final word on UN SDG number 4. This is about quality education, and UN SDG number 9 is about innovation. So this is where Wollongong comes, and this is where I want to thank all students in attendance here. I want to thank you for your participation in COP28. I want to thank you for putting your best efforts to contribute to the event, to enhance your learning, and also to thank you for producing innovative projects, for developing smart solutions to help with the environment challenge. I was a witness last week attending the computer science students showcase. This is a showcase by the graduating students. I mean, I was surprised with these so many innovative systems that utilize AI in order to save energy and cut waste. So there is hope. And this is thanks to you, the future leaders. And of course, I must thank your professors who are in attendance. So thanks to Dr. Carol, thanks to Dr. Stephen and Dr. Jayang. And of course, finally, thanks to Dr. Zenith. Over to you, Zenith.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words and the little snippet that you've given us on the kind of work even Ministry of Education is doing and how they're actually promoting schools and school projects that are really working towards against sustainability and fighting against climate change, because this is not something one person can do. We all need to do our part, and we all need to do our share, pick up our share of load. So Dr. Stephen is running a little late, so I'm going to continue with the schedule. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce the keynote presentation today, which is going to be done by, of course, Mustafa, who is our undergraduate student at the university. A 21-year-old university student pursuing a Bachelor of Business Administration at our university, Mustafa is a young environmentalist with a passion for sustainability. Growing up surrounded by a myriad of experiences, he has become a youth ambassador for climate action and environmental awareness. Alongside this, his creative passions have led him to become the university's dance club president, allowing him to not only utilize his ecological pursuits, but unite them with his artistic interests. With a repertoire of several notable events under his belt, including being a speaker at COP28, he is a speaker, performer, advocate, and changemaker. Over to you, Mustafa.
Yes, thank you so much. I'll just share my screen for the presentation. Is everyone able to see it? Awesome. Okay. So hello, everyone. So my name is Mustafa. Like Ms. Zinat said, I am the youth ambassador as well as the representative from University of Wollongong. I'm a third-year student studying BBA, and I want to explore what our university has done in terms of its green initiatives and sustainability as a whole. So as a whole, I wanted to explore what to us sustainability meant. So when we see sustainability, we think, okay, it's recycling, it's using less waste, it's going on the metro. But honest to God, when it comes to us as students and us as a university, sustainability is a lot of things. It's not just one definition, it's a myriad of things that we can do on an active basis. So for example, it's integrated into our learning, it's on our campuses, it's in the way that we think, the way that we move. And I wanted to explore that in two different ways. Firstly, it's going to be the university-led efforts. So like the faculty members, the management, what the actual campus is doing on an active basis, as well as what the students are doing to actually participate in sustainability as a whole. So the first thing I wanted to explore is how the integrated courses actively not only teach, but raise awareness about sustainability. So we have entire business courses, entire engineering courses, media courses talking about CSR, ESG, sustainability, eco-consciousness. And all this is very important, as awareness and advocacy is the first role in how we can educate ourselves and how we can actively make change. Not knowing something in the day and age of the internet is the worst thing that we can do. And as students, we not only have the burden to learn, but also act upon our information and knowledge. So thanks to the University of Wollongong, Dubai, we have been able to actively see what it means to be sustainable on an industry level, a corporate level, as well as on an individual case on how we can make changes. As well as we have entire subjects determined on sustainability. For example, we have Dr. Joanne Cho, who teaches 331, which is an entire course about ESG and CSR, which is so important because when we're learning about the environment and profits, for example, we look at the money aspect. We look at businesses as only a corporation rather than how to help the planet and the people. So it's extremely important to integrate these facets into how we can function within business societies as well as societies as a whole. Likewise, we've seen entire courses that actively also teach about conservation, for example, GOG 222. We've seen how we can actively participate and use the SDGs in everything that we can do. I feel like our university is really good at this when it actively participates in using climate action, partnership for the goals, and even responsible consumption on an active basis. Likewise, I want to talk about the actual university and what it's done. So actions speak louder than words, and the university itself has actively participated in climate action initiatives. For example, we have light sensors, which help diminish the need for carbon, need for electricity, water. All of these things actually do make a difference. And across all our 7 floors, we do have 20+ recycling stations, which help mitigate the need for waste management, help mitigate the need for pollutants to be put back into the environment. And all these things help the students not only learn, but actually become change makers on an active basis. Likewise, to diminish our plastic usage, we have also had 12+ refilling bottle stations, so we can diminish our need for plastic bottles, diminish the need for actively needing to bring our own waste and disposing it here. Likewise, our pantries have fridges, we have microwaves, so it encourages us to not only bring our own food from home, but also take it back, decreasing the need for waste. Likewise, we have 3 designated green spaces outside to help biodiversity, to help the student mood, and just to involve students within the ecosystem itself, as well as around us. And I cannot leave this specific note without mentioning how important it is to us that the faculty support and its mentorship is so vital to how we as students are able to take it forward. So we have a lot of the amazing students we have here today is because of the teachers who have taught us this. For example, we have Ms. Vidhi, who teaches us the importance of sustainability and how marketing plays a big role in how we can actually be better business makers and better people for society. Dr. Zinat, of course, teaching us how it's important to conserve, to bring forward this message of awareness and advocacy. And again, so many amazing professors, Dr. Jayan Cho, Mr. Sherwin, Dr. Ramela, amazing professors who have actively shaped us, because only through the leadership that we see is that we as students can actually make a change. And speaking about change, the core and heart and soul of any university is the student body. It's the students, it's the clubs, it's the hardworking youth who actively are able to make a change and actively participate in climate action and other sustainability goals. And I'll be focusing on the student-led efforts. So I want to focus on a bit on the clubs itself because they are a big part of the university. So we have Sustainability Society who actively participate in advocacy, awareness campaigns, conferences, bringing in industry heads, corporate level leaders, which not only helps us learn how we can be sustainable on our own level, but at a corporate level, how they are actively working to diminish the greenhouse gas emissions, pollutants, etc. Then the art club itself. When it comes to making and creating art, a lot of passion goes into the creativity, but at the same time, creating mass amounts of waste. So everything that they do is always recyclable and disposed of in a creative way that they can not only diminish any toxins entering the environment, but also use it again for future projects. Likewise, speaking of projects, the Fashion Club recently did have an entire event where they made an entire dress from over, I believe, 150 wrappers of lace chips. And this helps show that we can repurpose the pollutants today and actively not only use it in everyday life, but make statements based off of our actions. And then finally, the club that I represent the most, the dance club, is that in everything that we do, we want to include sustainability not only at an individual level, but at a community level as well. For example, for any events, for any performances, we always want to repurpose our clothes, thrift them, use what we have at home rather than buying more and wasting it. Even recently for our 30th anniversary, we used hoodies that were actually within the university for many, many years to represent how we, over the last 30 years, have improved, grown, and evolved as a university. And finally, I'll talk about how students taking the lead is extremely important. So we have me, we have Ms. Neha Himnani, we have Ishta Dingare, and obviously Ms. Bola, who have actively done so much. And we have more and more students every single day who are taking the pledge and taking action into their own hands. So I think it's everything that leads to this. It's the mentorship, it's the education, it's the clubs, it's the opportunities that we're given that students have to take the lead. We're burdened with the responsibilities of today, but we have the gifts of the nurtured and the technologies of tomorrow. And I think through this, we can actively actually make a change and fight climate change individually, on a community level, and a societal level. And for that, I want to say thank you for listening, and I hope that I was able to invoke some inspiration or some hope for you. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. And I have to say, this was the second time I was watching this presentation because, as I said, Mustafa was invited yesterday to a session at COP28 to do the presentation to showcase what University of Wollongong in Dubai is doing where sustainability is concerned. And I have to say, second time around, it just got better. I actually got to capture a lot more of the information that you were giving out. So what we have done, the way we have done today's session is it isn't just about talking, it's about also discussing every time a presenter presents something. So we will start off with you. It was a fantastic overall view that you've given us about the university. So as a student, Mustafa, I know you yourself are very passionate, but how do you see other students seeing these opportunities or seeing these initiatives? Do you hear conversations in corridors or among friend circles about what sustainability is and where we are at as a university?
Yeah, so when I was actually telling my friends that I'm going for COP28, it was a bit sad that most of them were like, what's that? So in the way that I was able to let them know that what COP28 is, it got them interested as well. For example, I reached out to a lot of the clubs for my friends, like the art club, fashion club, the Sustainability Society. I was able to speak to them and see, hey, what are you guys doing? And then they said, oh, on an active basis, not really anything. But then I asked them the deeper questions, and then they're like, oh yeah, we are recycling, we are thrifting, we are reusing. So it's a thing that I think comes inbuilt into the students that they're doing sustainable actions without knowing it. So I think it's a lot of like internal the drive to actually do something that they were like, oh yeah, wait, this counts as sustainability. So even like with the fashion club, their main goal was to make a statement with the entire dress, but in the end they were like, oh wait, we did recycle 150 different like waste packets. Same thing for the art club. They were like, oh yeah, we do actually reuse everything that we like make, our canvases, our paints. Like it's on an active basis that we undeniably are making change, but I think giving them the platform is what gives them more motivation to do so. So I think it was really good that we were able to give them that and represent them at such a big event like COP28.
Amazing. I think such a crucial point you've made. In fact, the students are not the only ones, by the way. Even when I was organizing my session and I was reaching out to people to put in proposals, they're like, what's COP28? It's like, are you guys kidding me? How can you not know what it is? But then I took a step back and I kind of did like some soul searching for myself as well. And I was like, yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm from a STEM background, and because my dad is, like an environmentalist and conservationist and stuff, so we've had these conversations at a family level all the time. So I am aware, right? But that's not true for everybody, right? And it's not like something, if somebody suddenly comes and talks to me about boxing, I wouldn't know about it, for instance, right? But if you're in that space and you liked it, and there was like a boxing championship happening in UAE, you would know about it. So I think that's an excellent point to make. I'm going to go to Mr. Nawar now at this point. So what was your thought on this presentation?
Every time I listen to a presentation by one of our great students, I am impressed by the activities that are happening. I am really impressed by the club actions in terms of sustainability, and I am becoming aware of the great work our students are doing to help the environment. So thank you, Mustafa, for the good presentation and for your efforts.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this event, like kind of bring everything together in snippets to just let everybody know that this is what we actually have been doing, but a lot of us are not aware. I'm going to open the floor for anybody from the audience if you have a question or a comment for Mustafa's presentation. We still have like a minute to go before the next presentation. I do see we have quite a few attendees have joined. Thank you so much, guys, for registering and coming on board. Anybody in the audience has, or the other speakers? How many of you are aware of everything that Mustafa said is going on campus? Maybe that's a better question to ask.
Really happy to see the sustainable fashion being implemented, even though they don't know that it is sustainable. Like about the fashion club, they reuse the packet and they're like, oh yeah, that's sustainable. There's something that happens a lot. Like you are doing something, yes, but you don't realize it is sustainable.
You don't realize it.
I'm really happy to know about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I knew you would say that. It's right up your alley. Okay, anybody else before I move on? Great. I also see Dr. Stephen has joined. Thank you so much, Dr. Stephen, for being here. So what we'll do is, before I go on to the next presentation, I would like to invite Dr. Stephen. Dr. Stephen is the Director of Research at the University of Wollongong in Dubai. He's a civil engineer, a fellow of Chartered Institution of Highways, Transportation, and a fellow of the Geological Society London. He's an expert in applied sustainability in science and engineering. And our staff, from the staff and campus, he's our beacon of sustainability. Dr. Stephen, a few words, please, from you. We can hear you. No. I know it's unmuted, but we can't hear you. No? Maybe change this. Oh, there you go. I heard you. Yes.
Apologies, I'm having computer issues
We can see.
all over the place. It seems to have been the case over the last couple of weeks with COP going on. I've been running between various locations for various meetings, and yeah, it's a busy time. It's an interesting site, COP28, with the three different locations. I'll just take the. So I've actually come from there today. I'll just take the badge off. With the three different locations, the government location where they're having the negotiations, and then around it, an area where there are the high level discussions of the key topics which feed into that, and then the blue zone, and then around that there is the green zone where businesses are meeting and displaying the very boundary of technology as it stands towards sustainability. So it's been incredibly interesting to see everything that's going on, but it's just almost overwhelming. The extent of, I guess, our understanding, the extent of what we can do, and the number of discussions that need to take place. I think the UAE COP has been a turning point in many respects in what has been done here. I've been talking to people about that today. So we've seen this agreement on the loss and damage fund, where climate change causes an impact that causes harm. There is now funding available to try and redress that harm. And I think that that's something that will grow with time, especially as we need to mitigate against climate change impacts. There's also now finally the discussions over the reductions in fossil fuels, which it's been, we're at COP28. COP26 was the first time that there was a discussion of a reduction of fossil fuels, and that was only coal that was to be reduced. The discussions at the moment are covering all fossil fuels, and there was the point about scientific advice that's been raised in some of the most recent drafts. So that's quite exciting in the level of change that there's been over the last 2 years in the right direction. And I can see this developing as we go along. So I'm very enthusiastic about what we've seen over the last little while, and I'm so glad and so proud that the university has engaged in so many events during the last couple of weeks. The engagement has been pretty amazing. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stories during this WowMates event.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and welcome to WowMates. Of course, as I said, he's he's the beacon of sustainability for UOWD. Really, he's very quiet, but he works so hard and he's so passionate about sustainability, about climate change, and everything that he does. And I've spoken to a few of his students, in fact, and the field trips they do, they just love it. They just absolutely love the experiences that he brings into his classroom. So, Dr. Stephen, an absolute pleasure to hear from you and to have you as a part of today's session. So it's 4:30, so we're going to move on to our next presentation. Dr. Jiwong Chu, again, I'm hoping I'm not massacring the name. He's an assistant professor of strategic management at University of Wollongong in Dubai. His teaching and research interests include sustainable management, corporate governance, competitive dynamics, and family business. So Dr. Shu is going to be talking to us about CSR and ESG. Over to you, Dr. Shu.
Yeah, thank you, Shinas, for the invitation, and you pronounce my name exactly really well. Thank you so much for calling my name exactly. So let me share my screen, okay? Okay, can you see my screen and can you hear my voice, okay?
Yes, perfect. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Today I'm going to talk about the CSR and ESG, but from the corporate level, and especially I'm going to talk about the when companies implement CSR and ESG, why it is so important that we must consider the stakeholders' responsibility. So rather than talking about the importance of CSR and ESG, I'm going to talk about the stakeholders' responsibility as the key driver that help companies initiate CSR and ESG successfully. Okay. So first, I want to ask that we need CSR and ESG as a part of climate actions. Maybe we could say yes, but many companies why it is so important to consider internal and external stakeholders such as managers or external investors, and how implement well these initiatives well. And today I'm going to talk about why it is so important when companies implement these initiatives. CSR and ESG are often discussed in terms of understanding how stakeholders react to firm's actions. So for example, if the firm acts something and its stakeholders react, and because stakeholders like managers, employees, or investors are all stakeholders that the firms cannot be a separate thing. So the firm's action, whatever that they act, it reflects the aggregate and concurrent effect of all its stakeholders' actions. So in conclusion, the firm is constituted by its stakeholders, and they're one and the same. So I bring also a figure which shows that the CSR and ESG window of opportunity. And from this picture, we can see why stakeholder engagement is so important. When companies consider external and internal values of the stakeholders, they could identify a window of opportunities. Here, window of opportunities means that when companies do initiate their CSR and ESG activities, and when they sense and when they aware of their stakeholders well, they could implement CSR and ESG well, and finally they could achieve higher competitive advantages in the marketplace. And also this graph shows the importance of the stakeholders' engagement within the firm level, and it shows the importance of responding to stakeholder concerns in relation to CSR and ESG issues before it is too late and stakeholders rebel. So as you can see here, the sweet spot is maintained when the companies is able to stay within the shared area where opportunity is maximized and risk is minimized. So opportunity and risk might be minimized or maximized, which are based on the stakeholders engagement. So the trade-off between opportunity and risk in the companies demonstrate the extent to which any stakeholders is committed to the given issue. And the danger zone might occur where risk outweighs opportunity in relation to a CSR or ESG issue that have become taken for granted among the firm's key stakeholders. And lastly, as you can see, there is a reflection point. It occurs when stakeholders act to punish the firm for not meeting their expectation in relation to that of like CSR or ESG issues. And another question is that we just learned that why stakeholders are so important when companies initiate good activities, in which include climate actions. Then the question might rise that how we implement these initiatives well. I met a lot of companies and they still do not know how to implement well. And I bring basic but fundamental solution for the companies. So first, they can create core values through encouraging active stakeholder engagements, and they provide transparent communication and reporting, and they could establish collaboration with the external parties, and they must have continuous monitoring and feedback from the stakeholders so that they could implement CSR and ESG activities well. So yes, here is the conclusion from my slide. Many companies still do not know how they implement CSR and ESG activities well. And today I bring the perspective of corporate stakeholders and how it is important. So considering the perspectives of corporate stakeholders is essential for effective implementation of CSR and ESG initiatives. It not only aligns business practices with social values, but also it contributes to corporate long-term sustainability and success. And I hope these kinds of short presentation might be helpful for someone who will work for the companies or like for the academias. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Okay, I think I was also kicked out and I came back. I just missed your last sentence, but thank you so much for that insight. I think a lot of us again hear the terminology CSR, ESG, but you know, just even in the 5 minutes you've given us a really like deep look into what that is and why it's so important and what is the role of stakeholders. I'm sure a lot of you may have heard about, like, for instance, the Railwaymen, which is a show that's happening currently, being shown in Netflix. And it's about the Bhopal gas incident that happened in the 1980s. And I think what you just said really fell into space for me when I link it back to what I watched in that series about the importance of stakeholders, and why companies need to be taking into consideration the people, the environment, and of course the governance, and you know how all of that works together. So we have a few minutes for a quick discussion. So I will probably start first with Mustafa, being our, of course, brand ambassador as a student. Mustafa, what was your thought on the presentation?
No, I wholeheartedly agree that I think ESG and CSR is an extremely important part of like business, like strategies and like obviously what they do. Because a lot of times when we look at companies nowadays, they tend to not only not be unethical, but they kind of thrive in that little like danger zone of being able to do horrible things, but then have a reactive action to then make a charity or to greenwash entirely. And that allows them to not only do all like awfully dubious things, but then they can pay half of what they need to do and actually to reactively change to be like, oh, look, we're making small changes. Like, so I think it's important to actively like investigate these things and have like what Dr. Cho said, like having that like reporting system, transparent communication, it's very, very vital, because if we don't have that system, as well as having like a monitoring system for these companies, we will see endless exploitations of workers, of the planet, of the people. So I think it's important to embed that culture into its people. as well as to actively integrate how businesses can benefit from CSR and ESG before they reach that danger zone. So that's what I think about this.
Fantastic. We have time for one comment or observation or question from the audience, if there is any. Anyone? No? Okay.
And if there's no one, may I speak one more thing?
Yes, please.
Yes, when I meet a lot of managers, I ask this question: why do you pursue CSR and why you pursue, ESG activities? Most of them say because we pursue because other competitors do it. They still do not know the identity of like pursuing CSR and ESG. So yes, I hope this, through this presentation and conversation, at least as a student or academias, we might need to give some advice to the kinds of majors who do not know about this well.
Brilliantly said, Dr. Shua. I could not have said it better. You're absolutely right. And this is something, in fact, today somebody was talking about when we were at COP, that, we're just now hearing about greenwashing and we're trying to understand what that is. And a lot of these companies are putting in superficial measures because other people are doing it without really understanding why it is important to them and their business and their bottom line and for their stakeholders. Without even realizing or understanding all of that, they're just bringing in wonderful things that they think are going to do great things for their company. Thank you so much, Dr. Shu, for that insightful presentation. We are going to move on now to ethical fashion with Basila. Basila holds an MBA with a specialization in marketing and is currently employed as a faculty member at Westwood University College. She possesses a strong interest in studying consumer behavior, and her research topic for a PhD that she's doing with us at UOWD is consumer behavior in sustainable fashion. So really excited to hear from you, Basila. Over to you.
Hi, I'll not be presenting anything, I'll just be talking. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It feels really good because to be able to connect with like-minded people is a wonderful thing. And I hope that within this 5 minutes, I'll be able to influence at least one of you to take one small step towards sustainable fashion. Like it's already there, at least become aware that you are doing something sustainable. Maybe that's one aspect I can put across. So if we take it, today we stand at a critical crossroads in the fashion industry. The current model that is dominated by fast fashion is characterized by a relentless cycle of take, make it, and just waste. It's no longer practical, and fashion industry, as you may all know, is one of the biggest enemies of the environment and the society. The current fashion industry is characterized one side by excessive resource extraction, like deforestation, there's water pollution because of the fashion industry, and there's a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and there's rampant consumption. Like there are Black Friday sales, White Wednesday sales, Unicorn Thursday sales. We're also pressurized to buy, like it's so cheap. We end up buying a lot. And then we end up wearing them so much more lesser because we have so many clothes back home. Like, why should we wear the same dress again and again? And this is leading to a staggering amount of clothing waste. Like mountains and mountains of unwanted clothes is ending up in landfills. It's being washed up the beaches. And this is one side of it. And in the other side, we see that workers are being paid barely enough to survive. And then there is limited access to their necessities, basic necessities like clean water or sanitation facilities also. They work up to 16 hours or more without even having a loo break. This child labor is still prevalent in the fashion industry. And on top of that, there's physical and verbal abuse from the employers because of the pressure from fashion industry. I don't think I need to explain about the Rana Plaza incident because all of you might already be aware of it. So there was like a wake-up call, and these stark realities cannot be ignored any longer. We have to embark on this transformative journey. First thing, pay equity in the fashion industry must be a non-negotiable value. And second thing, we must center climate justice in fashion. And you have to recognize that the environment, we do not have a planet B. That's the sentence that everybody can relate to. And from my research so far, there's this one concept that I've understood, that one concept that I keep getting reinforced, and that is that there is nothing 100% sustainable in fashion. Like, there's always the catch to it. There are so many brands out there who call them sustainable and ask you to buy more and more of it. It doesn't make sense. The moment you overconsume, it's not sustainable anymore. This is one topic that I want to be discussed after this, if you guys will join. And I think there's no single solution to this multifaceted challenges that fashion industry is facing now. Like, social media might say there's this quick fixes or silver bullets, but no. Every single small step is crucial, but there's no single solution. All of us have to join our hands together. That's it. I had this opportunity to hear Dr. Steve's speech, and it was titled, Where Did All the Buttons Go? So that made me think, yeah, true. If you lose the button from your favorite cloth, favorite dress, you're not able to wear it again. Yeah, maybe it's a unique button. So if you're sewing that button on back to your dress and you're wearing it again, it's a small thing. We may not think about it again, but it makes a difference. It actually makes a difference. So it's about these small solutions that we bring together, and each of the puzzle contributes to the bigger picture. So we have to shift our focus away from the fleeting trends, away from overconsumption, and we have to look into slow fashion, we have to look into recycling, we have to look into secondhand clothing, circular fashion. That's how we can do it. I've heard people say that sustainable fashion is too costly. I cannot afford it. But no, that's not that approach you have to take it. Just buy quality clothing and wear them for longer. That is good enough. That is one contribution that you're doing towards sustainability. Buy fewer clothes, shop secondhand, repair and upcycle. If you got a small tear in your cloth, just take your needle, take your, just sew it, learn the art of it, and then advocate for change. If you can afford it, buy from sustainable fashion brands. But again, make sure you're not buying over of it, you're not over consuming it. So I think we are at this precipice of a monumental change. People are becoming more aware, especially the students. I was really happy to hear Mustafa talk about the activities going on UOWD, because I'm from PhD. We don't have much contact with the undergrad students. We don't know much of what's happening in the college, but it made me really happy today. Even though they're not aware of sustainability, they're doing it at least. That's great. Yeah. So let's heed the wise words of Liz Ricketts. She is the co-founder of Our Foundation, and she advocates a lot about acting from our level of influence. So her words goes like this: we are all integral actors in this compelling narrative of sustainable fashion. Every voice, every action, no matter how seemingly insignificant, contributes to building a brighter and more sustainable future. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Basila, for that very, very insightful talk about fast fashion and the impact it's really having on our earth. We don't realize it, but fast fashion is something we have all indulged in. It's easier to just buy a t-shirt, wear it once, twice, and then throw it away and just go and buy something else. I keep to be trendy, and I keep, in tune with all the, the hype and everything that's happening and all the influencers, whatever they're saying. But the impact that we are really having is something that we are not thinking about. I would like to probably ask at this stage, Dr. Stephen, did you have any comment or thoughts about Basila's presentation?
Yes, I really enjoyed her talk at the Innovation Centre during the Sustainable Fashion event. And it is something that has been, I guess, a movement towards degrowth. Like, should we be ever chasing increasing GDP, increasing, trying to get people to buy more and more and more and more? Or should we be looking for the things that last longer? Should we be looking to buy less? And I like the idea of our actions should touch the world lightly so the world remains for future generations. But it's a really challenging thing to do, especially when there is the pressure from peers. Now, for me, I don't get that pressure, and I'm beyond that now. But for students, I can imagine that it is much more difficult.
Yeah, must be. I think you're right. And as we grow older, we kind of become more grounded with ourselves and a little bit more assured and more, self-assured with who we are and how we dress. And a lot of, like, I repeat my saris umpteen times in a year. And if you actually put all my social media photos, you'll see, oh my God, look at how many times she's repeated one sari, And I'm at a point exactly as you said, like, it doesn't matter to me.
I think what I'm wearing is things that I've owned for 10 years. So.
Yeah. And I think, but
yeah, even I do have. I have a dress that's from 11 years ago, and I'm really proud of it also.
Yes, exactly. I think the next question I'm going to ask actually is going to tie in with our next presenter about this, because you said, we need to change our mindset, but I think it's very difficult to change the mindset because people are so set in their ways, right? What are some of the things, because you looked at, and I will make this very quick, because you're looking at consumer behavior in maybe 30 seconds. What are the kind of things you are looking at which can convince people to change?
Is that question to me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought it's the next presenter.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
it ties into the next one. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I lost the question. Can you please repeat it? I'm sorry.
30 seconds. Two things that you think in terms of consumer behavior that can be done to change people's minds.
Awareness, for sure, awareness. When you get to know more. When I started my research, it has made a difference. I buy lesser. I don't buy from Shein anymore. Second thing would be, again, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm like, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm happy you said I don't know, because now we're going to move to the next expert who is actually doing her PhD in marketing. Having earned her master's degree in strategic marketing, Vidhi Sharma is an instructor for marketing and management courses at the university. She runs an initiative called Walk the Talk to offer undergraduate students the opportunity to interact with marketing experts from different industries. Currently, she's pursuing her PhD with us. She's interested in human-computer interactions, the role that marketing technologies play in the services. Vidhi, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Zeenat, for inviting me to participate in this amazing initiative today. I see some of my students sitting here, and I must say I'm so proud of each one of you. So very quickly, I'm going to share my slides, and then we can begin. Okay, so my topic today is the key trends and best practices of sustainable marketing. Sustainable marketing is basically a type of marketing which focuses on environmental and social impacts of marketing campaigns. Sustainable marketing strategies are basically all about organizations having a larger purpose, treating people fairly, and placing value before profit. Between 2023, which is now, and 2030, which is just 7 years later, the global green technology and the sustainability market is all set to grow to a peak of a staggering $62 billion, which is an amazing amount. This rise of sustainable marketing has been attributed to the roles of key stakeholders in this market. Consumers are now more aware than ever, just like Basila mentioned. They're more aware about scientific evidence, which has impacted their purchase decisions. Governments in many parts of the world at local, subnational, and national levels have made sustainability commitments by setting goals and policies and laws to effect behavioral changes and activities that impact, the environment and the society. We also have a lot of corporate marketeers these days who are taking action. So several companies, like you can see, Procter & Gamble, 3M, Kimberly-Clark, Microsoft, Unilever, all these companies have now initiated programs engaging with the key stakeholders in the value chain to adhere to social and environmental standards. So some of the best practices that marketers are now using to revamp their marketing mix in an effort to be more sustainable are, many companies are making a conscious effort to either remove harmful ingredients such as phosphates in detergents, or they're designing eco-friendly packaging for their products. And research actually shows that 41% of consumers are happy to pay for these products that are created organically. So, this is like an implication for marketers. They should reposition products as environmentally friendly because it offers them an opportunity to gain market recognition, and it also provides higher visibility in the already cluttered advertising world. Now, another good practice is the utilization of actionable digital marketing strategies for sustainable marketing. We see a lot of digital marketers doing green hosting these days, where they're choosing web hosting providers that use renewable sources of energy for data centers. And these providers often have certifications that can reduce carbon footprint of their websites. Optimizing website performance, faster loading websites not only improve user experience, but they also consume lesser energy. And using eco-friendly designs, the taking the less is more approach, and reducing the use of large media files, using minimalistic designs in their website and their email marketing campaigns is another key trend. It's another good practice that is being undertaken by digital marketers these days. Also, the creation of sustainable content is something that we can see. So a lot of marketers are actually producing content that promotes sustainability and environmentally friendly practices. They're sharing stories about the initiatives that the company is taking. They're highlighting eco-friendly products, and they're basically educating their audience on environmental issues. Target email marketing. A lot of marketers are using AI to send targeted messages to specific audiences, which reduces the number of emails that are sent out, to individuals who may not be interested. And ultimately, this saves on time and energy and other resources. Finally, companies are also investing in carbon offset programs. So, in order to balance their carbon ledger, they're investing in campaigns such as reforestation or renewable energy projects or sustainable agricultural initiatives. Finally, measure and reporting the progress is very, very important. So marketers are regularly assessing the impacts of their digital marketing strategies on the environment, and they're tracking their progress, and then they're sharing the progress with the world, which demonstrates their commitment to a greener world. Of course, now we cannot talk about digital marketing without discussing the role of AI in sustainable marketing. A lot of the marketers these days are using AI to, for enhanced data analysis, which helps them sift through large amounts of customer data, and it also helps increase transparency, which can ultimately reduce greenwashing. It also helps in increased workplace efficiency. So AI tools are being used to automatically turn systems off or on as and when needed, thereby reducing energy consumption. And AI tools let marketers focus on delivering personalized content, relevant messages to their target audience. But the widespread adoption of AI marketing tools is not all sunshine and roses. We cannot ignore the fact that the creation and the training of AI tools such as ChatGPT or any other interface that runs on AI, these generators require massive amounts of electricity, which is a big cause of concern during a time when lowering carbon emissions has become a major global priority. So, in conclusion, we do see that sustainable marketing is not a trend. It has become a necessity. We are still not sure about the ramifications of using AI for sustainable marketing, but I think marketers must play a balancing act in aiming for the responsible use for digital tools while also minimizing the environmental harm. And this must be done one step at a time and one campaign at a time. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I think you bring it home what Basila started as a conversation.
Yes.
About awareness. I think AI, using AI and big data to kind of understand people's behaviors and help you, especially help companies to actually target people in a way that's going to actually, engage them and increase that awareness. I think it's very important. And what you mentioned, in fact, about technology, yes, it's definitely a
It's a double-edged
definitely
sword.
yes, it's a plus because we're not using paper, etc., etc. But
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
in fact, even the silicon that is being used, the material that's being used to
Yes.
make the chips, for instance, right? I mean, even all of that is really adding to the minefields for waste that we talk about, and they don't disintegrate. They're not biodegradable.
Yes.
So again, I think a fantastic presentation. Maybe I'll circle back to Mustafa in 30 seconds. Any comments or thoughts?
Firstly, I just want to say thank you for being here, Ms. Vidhi. And I think we have the same thought process because at the same time, I was making notes for this entire presentation, and we both at the exact same time said balancing act. So that was perfect for us.
Yes,
But
I think it's a constant challenge for marketers
Exactly.
these days. It's put them under a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
Where they have to balance the interests of different stakeholders. That they want to make money, but at the same time, they don't want to upset the environmentalists.
Of course.
And they want to keep the consumers happy because the consumers are so conscious about what's going into their body
Yes,
and what's going into the
exactly.
environment.
Exactly.
So it's a constant challenge for marketers these days.
Yeah, and I think marketing is a great tool because it not only combines what Basila and Dr. Cho said, that like everything has to be stakeholder engagement. Everything has to be an active participation by everyone within the value chain, from production to the actual acquiring of the resources to then buying it and the post-marketing. Everything is a part of the green sustainability goals. So I think that's a great way of like showing how we as marketeers and as consumers can actually participate in this.
Thank you. Again, great conversation there. So moving on to our next presentation, we are going to shift the gear completely from business, and we're going to look at academic integrity and climate change. And now everybody must be like, huh? So the presenter is Neha Himnani. She is a second-year university student pursuing a degree in finance at the University of Wollongong in Dubai. She's also the student board member of the NIWG Center for Academic Integrity, the UAE, who passionately speaks about academic integrity. Neha, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Zeenath, for your kind words and for the opportunity to speak here at the symposium. It's been truly wonderful hearing everyone voice out their opinions and give their insight on topics they know best. Whenever I speak at events like these, I always like to start off with my experience because I feel like that's something that creates long-lasting impact. So whether it was during high school or during earlier years, the standard dialogue I would hear in my school or in general throughout the curriculum that I was studying in was, don't cheat, you'll be penalized for it, or don't cheat, come up with your own words. But there was little to no healthy discussion surrounding academic integrity or why cheating is wrong. And my observation based on this raised two questions in my mind. Why are students not asking their teachers why? So an attribute of this is obviously the fear of sounding dumb. Let's be honest. Everyone is always told by their parents or their teachers that don't cheat, be honest, dishonesty is bad. So if as a student who is already so insecure and burdened with other things, like some of the other speakers mentioned, if you approach your teacher and ask her, why are you asking me to do this? Sounds kind of dumb, right? But then all this shows is that more students more or less are doing not cheating because they're afraid of the penalty. They're afraid of what's going to come next, not because this is what actually lines up with their morals or they truly understand the meaning of demonstrating integrity in academia. And like Mustafa also said in his keynote presentation, education is always the first step. So this just means that it's really important for teachers and professors to come up, to take the step, to cultivate a safe space for a healthy conversation with students. Students just want to be shown that there is no fear in asking questions and that they shouldn't be afraid of what comes next because they're on the right path, because they actually want to be there. And the second question that pops up in my mind is, if students are doing this out of fear, aren't students just going to find a loophole to plagiarize their way out of work? And funny enough, like Ms. Vidhi mentioned, most students already do that. Use of ChatGPT or Google Bard or other AI softwares, or even Instagram accounts messaging you, concealing contract cheating and saying, oh, we're academic helpers. all of this has killed the culture of actively participating in learning and in assessment, and the aspect of authenticity in all your work is pretty much unclear at this point. It's very easy to say that like all students are cheating, but that's not the case. And this is why the authenticity has just gone away. So as a student, if it weren't for like the healthy and interactive discussions I'm having now, or for games that are actually involving me in understanding the principles of academic integrity, like the one Dr. Zenith has developed, I would have been stuck in the same loop of being scared to utilize the power of asking questions, of asking why this and why not this. And that's where I'd like to give credit to Dr. Zenith, because majority of my learning in this arena would have not been possible without her. And that actually brings me to another integral principle of academic integrity, giving credit where credit is due. As students, we're always asked to cite things, reference things the right way, and make sure if we are quoting someone, we're giving them credit for it, right? And that's amazing. That is the right thing to do. But then a lot of industry examples show us that this habit of giving credit where the credit is due has gotten lost somewhere in translation, and it's not always carried over to people's professions. And this is where we'll enter the industry, and where I want to kind of bring in climate change into the conversation, since that's why we're here. We were also talking about sustainable fashion, and within the fashion industry, the wisdom and concepts, the traditions of indigenous people and communities has been overlooked so much. Their designs have been appropriated, their techniques, their beadwork, their leatherwork has been repackaged to seem different and unique from companies' competitors, but it's actually just taken from indigenous communities without giving them any credit. There are companies that have been openly criticized, like Anthropology and Isabel Marant, but are some of the big labels. So you would expect them to be the sustainable ones, but they are the ones who have actually faced criticism for appropriating the intellectual property of indigenous communities without even acknowledging them ever. And this isn't just important because giving credit where credit is due is important, right? We have so much to learn. It's always about learning. It's always about healthy discussions. And with indigenous communities, their culture and their work has always been infused with practices that are mentioning, that are maintaining a constant balance, and they never seem to misuse the resources. They always use how much needed. They don't appropriate resources if they don't need it. So, but in our culture, which is so modern and so fast moving in this Western world, we no longer live in a harmony with nature. A lot of companies in the fashion industry, or even in general in other industries, we don't pay attention to sustainability and ethical sourcing as much as they should. They do the bare minimum, sometimes not even that much, but as long as they do the bare minimum, as long as their company is green on paper, it's all good, right? No problem. So it is so vital for us to learn from ethnic groups. And to do this, companies should collaborate and become equal partners, like the Sustainable Goal 17 suggests, with these tribes and communities, and give a break to opportunistic capitalism. Lastly, I'd like to bring the conversation back to our level, to university students, school students. We should give them the opportunity, space to ask questions, show their right ideas, and receive the same respect and empathy that teachers and professors deserve and receive, because the path to a world where such topics are openly spoken about is not so long if we are constantly communicating and we're being consistent with what we are preaching, because after all, we have to practice it first. Otherwise, it's not right for us to preach it. Over to you, Dr. Zina.
Thank you so much, Neha. And I think it's very interesting because what you said about values and courage, these are all values of academic integrity, right? You know, have to be honest, and you have to be fair, you have to show courage and respect and responsibility. But often we think this is very limited to academia. But then you linked it back to show how actually it is, because we are not carrying these values forward when we go into the corporate world. Unfortunately, these are the impacts that we are seeing, whether it's the Bhopal incident where the Dow Chemical company, our Union Carbide, decided not to follow the rules and not to take heed from the scientists, or what Basila said about the fast fashion that we are looking at. All of this, I think, is a conclusion to the fact that we are not internalizing these values of academic integrity. And therefore, we are seeing the impact when policymakers are, rubbing their hands and shying away from actually committing, or as Dr. Shu said about the stakeholders and, just talking about it because somebody else is doing it, that's why I'm doing it, right? So at this stage, I will probably go to, I don't know, Mr. Nawar, are you here? I don't see him in the camera, so I'm not sure if he's here. Okay, no problem. I will go to Stephen. Stephen, 30 seconds. Any thoughts on the topic? Oh no, have we lost Stephen also? I also disappeared, by the way, in between. I don't know if you guys realized at the end of Dr. Shu's presentation, my internet also stopped working. All right, I will circle back to Mustafa.
Yeah, of course. So I think like one thing that unites all of our issues, for example, like how Basila talked about the fast fashion industry, Neha with the academic disintegrity, and Miss Vidhi with like marketing. It's the lack of connection and the amount of apathy we have towards certain communities and certain practices that is what I think allows for consumers and for us as people, as business, students and students generally, to do such like unethical acts. When it's so standardized to use ChatGPT to write an essay, we give up our individuality in the pursuit for convenience. So I think all of these things need to be explored on a level of education, that how can we involve students, involve the faculty, involve professors to teach that culture of cultivation, hard work, because when something is not yours, but it's very easy to get it, you're gonna be the one who's like, okay, I'll buy that very fast. Okay, a shirt's 2 dirhams, why not? You're not gonna look at the blood, sweat, and tears behind how hard it is to get the cotton, to get the palm. All these things are not embedded into our culture of looking deeper into the products. Same way as like writing an essay. Okay, hey ChatGPT, I need this done, please do it. Within 2 seconds, it'll write something. Okay, submit it, boom, done. And with citations, you're finished. So I think being able to teach students that hard work and being able to collaborate on things when giving the right attention, giving the right details to who deserves it, is how we can actively participate in this.
Fantastic, thank you. So we move, because now we're talking about education and we touched upon awareness a little with Basila. We're going to move now to Minat Al-Adaud. Minna is a dedicated student enrolled in our university, studying computer science with a specialization in cybersecurity. She's committed to continuous learning and broadening her understanding in various fields. And Minna is going to talk to us about gamification and climate change awareness. Over to you, Minna.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zeenath, for having me again to discuss this topic. Dr. Zeenath and I, along with some of my other colleagues, have already had a Majlis session about gamification and climate change. So I'm so happy to be able to cover it again and recap some of the important points we discussed during the session. So obviously in this day and age, we all know or have heard of the climate crisis, and some of us might even be taking initiatives to either raise awareness or help the planet ourselves by taking initiatives such as recycling, shopping sustainably with sustainable brands, reducing our carbon footprint, etc. Now, the concept of gamification is essentially just taking game-like elements and implementing them into non-game contexts such as climate change. Things like competitions and in-class quizzes or activities, Kahoot is a form of gamification. And we mainly discuss the concept of gamification with respect to the educational sector and how it could potentially benefit the cause. So one of the benefits we discussed was how gamification could enhance the learning by taking a topic that's so complex like climate change and simplifying it in a way to introduce it as a new concept to students, especially the young ones who might not understand or know about it. So it simplifies it and it creates sort of an interactive environment in the class. Another benefit is that it can increase collaboration between students, especially when it comes to like those inter-school competitions where you compete in groups. Those really enhance the collaboration. Now, with these benefits come some concerns with gamifying a topic as big as climate change and climate change awareness. And one of them is oversimplifying the concept. So we're initially just really simplifying down the nuances of climate change. And as a result, this could lead to lack of understanding or even in some cases, misinformation about climate change. And obviously, I would say with a topic this big, misinformation can be really, really harmful. Another concern is that gamification can be seen as sort of a short-term solution. So yes, okay, our school is organizing this sustainable competition or gamifying this aspect of climate change. Then what? Are we actually creating some sort of habits for these students to take home with them and continue building on it, continue learning about climate change, implementing those sustainable practices in their lives? And that's something we should keep in mind when we implement gamification in topics like these. And finally, I would say one of the biggest concerns when we discuss sustainability and climate change is greenwashing. I would say that we don't talk about it enough because that's such a harmful thing. So in essence, greenwashing is basically when a company or an organization markets itself as sustainable or environmentally aware without actually doing their part to address or help tackle the root causes of this issue like climate change. So I would say all in all, gamification can be such an amazing way to introduce a new topic and enhance a classroom experience and increasing interactivity and collaboration, but we must keep in mind that these issues that we discussed above, especially greenwashing, because it can be really harmful to the cause we're trying to tackle. And that is all. Thank you.
Oh, that's a fantastic viewpoint. Thank you, Mena, so much for bringing that in. I think when we think about education and awareness and how to build, how to do it, gamification is a fantastic tool for sure. But as you mentioned, there's a risk. In fact, I was at a session at COP28 last week where one of the presenters talked about how their campus had done a hackathon on sustainability, right? And it was amazing. There were 150 students and all the experience was really great. But then the students noticed that there were 150 screens that were on the whole 9 hours of the presentations. Right? And they then turned and started asking the organizers, wait a minute, aren't you wasting energy? So yes, there is a, like a negative to this, because as Vidhi in fact mentioned as well, with technology, there is a carbon footprint to think about. But I think the more we are doing this, as Neha said, more, I think students are becoming more courageous. They're getting the space to come back and ask questions as well, right? Because this was a little bit academic, maybe I will ask Dr. Shu, what did you think about gamification in enhancing climate change experience?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Wi-Fi has just like disconnected, so can you say one more time?
So I wanted to know what you thought about the presentation about gamification as a tool to enhance, awareness about climate change among students.
Yes, I mean, I totally agree with what she said, and it is really important issue that she mentioned. But the question may rise, and what we need to do as a part of the society. But I totally agree with what she said, but we might need to think about one more time as part of society what we need to do for the climate action. But thanks once again for the great presentation.
Thank you. All right. Do we have, I have 30 seconds. Anybody else has a comment about the presentation or a question to ask? If not, then I will continue on. Okay, thank you, Mena. So now we move on to a little bit more technical. We look at cybersecurity and climate change. So we have Sami Sheikh, who is an undergraduate student. He joined us at UOWD, and then over summer he transferred to Wollongong, Australia. So So he's a dedicated student currently enrolled at Wollongong and has transitioned from studying with us. His expertise lies in both cybersecurity and digital system security, showcasing a commitment to ongoing learning. Sami, I'm really interested to hear about cybersecurity from you. Over to you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Is everything fine?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay, so as a cybersecurity student, and especially with climate change, I have attended COP 2028, or is it 27? The latest COP event, and as such, like I wanted to share my expert opinions on it as a student in both cybersecurity and digital systems. And I believe that cybersecurity is very integral towards promoting positive climate change. So I'll list out a few reasons why. So for example, environmental infrastructure that is based around Internet of Things technology, meaning that every device is connected to itself, is exposed to vulnerabilities, meaning that hackers can always access those devices, skew the data, or cause immense damage that could promote negative climate change. So as such, we use cybersecurity to promote the security of these systems to ensure that these devices are not tampered with, and that we are able to use technologies such as solar technologies, windmill technologies to promote sustainable energy grids. The second part is we also focus on data integrity in climate modeling. So what I talk about in climate modeling is that we use artificial intelligence along with big data technologies to create accurate estimations and predictions of how our climate is changing. That data can be skewed by third-party offenders, so therefore we use cybersecurity to ensure that this data is not manipulated and we don't provide the unauthorized access so that it could be easily skewed and show us disproportionate results that are inaccurate. The third part would be the use of IoT devices in climate monitoring, which is what we use to ensure that whenever we see our statistics, for example, we all use the weather application. This is thanks to Internet of Things, and if we make them secure, we can get proper estimations. Then also cybersecurity improves energy sector resilience. When we talk about resilience, we ensure that renewable energy sources, which are connected to specific devices for measurement and for gathering, are secured against cyber threats, because we've seen what happened when gas pipelines or nuclear reactors that are used for renewable energy sources are exposed by threat entities. And so we promote security and proper management through cybersecurity. The other interesting point would be the use of blockchain technology for climate data. So blockchain technology, in essence, is basically like a ledger. So basically, we can keep accurate lists of information regarding the data collected by other devices. So with using blockchain technology, we can reduce emissions, which I believe one of the speakers here talked about how much AI uses a lot of electricity and such. By implementing these sustainable technologies, we're able to reduce the impact it has on the climate and on carbon emissions as well. Using the AI in climate risk assessments is also very integral. Data science students or data scientists can use these predictive models to find out the best possible way to ensure that we implement the right strategies and methods to ensure that we promote climate change, to ensure that we follow the right steps to promote positive climate change. And then there's also the concept of interconnectedness, where we will connect every other's technology with each other to ensure that resources are shared, and therefore we have lower carbon emissions. Supply chain security, which would be very applicable towards what Ms. Vidhi and Mr. Mustafa talked about when it came towards fashion and retail. So if we are able to promote security in the supply chain in various industries, we're able to optimize how resources flow together so that production is sustainable and low cost. And this is more cyber-based, but collaboration for threat intelligence. So if the cybersec community can gain together, share resources, we are able to hunt threats more effectively and ensure that industries are working at low costs in finance terms and in carbon emissions. And the last part is regulatory compliance, because without regulatory compliance, companies will not be able to hold themselves accountable for their actions and decisions made by the policymakers. And with these regulatory compliances, we are able to ensure that they follow the strict guidelines we set out for them to ensure that our climate gets better and to ensure that global warming does not progress as much as it does now. And that is my perspective from a cybersecurity point of view on this topic.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sami. It's always a pleasure to have you in one of these panels and to hear about your thoughts and ideas. And we do miss you on campus, by the way.
Same here.
So let's talk about cybersecurity a little bit. So you gave us like a glimpse into what can go wrong with climate, the fight that we're doing against climate change, where cybersecurity is concerned. And I remember the Majlis where we were talking about this. I don't know. Have you watched the movie Geostorm?
Yes, I remember. If I remember right about a geostorm, it's basically where they created this device in space that controlled the climate, but then one day something went wrong and it caused
and there's something that went wrong. I'm hoping everybody's watched because I'm about to say
in artificial intelligence. Yeah, an artificial intelligence went wrong and it caused massive climate changes.
Okay, that's a nice way of saying it without giving the story away. Yes, thank you for saving everybody else. So. Of course, this is it's a cybersecurity lapse that has happened. Now, Hollywood movies, of course, they're entertainment, so they're always going to be massive and big, and they're looking. But when we come down to actually looking at the gridding system, for instance, that's there, the kind of connectedness that you mentioned, what are the risks in terms of, let's say, somebody using brute force attack or DDoS attack or something? To shut down these stations, for instance.
Okay, so most of the cyber attacks that happen globally are usually due to companies not ensuring proper risk assessments. They usually ignore compliance measures and they do not invest as much in security infrastructure. This is all very highly preventable because right now we have made great advancements in cybersecurity. We have So what we used to do before in cybersecurity is that we focused on incidents. We used to focus on finding the incidents and rectify them after they've occurred. So for example, we had an incident with Target. Target got hacked. There was 6 months of a breach and that cost around $25 million worth of damages. We have learned our lessons from that. And therefore we have now implemented the idea of active threat hunting. Active threat hunting is basically collaboration with security teams to actively seek out those threats, potential threats, create a risk profile for a company to see what are the possible attackers that could happen to them. So cybersecurity has come a long way. We have implemented artificial intelligence, machine learning, and even some neural networking and potentially LLMs in the future into this technology. So for a company to be hacked, there would have to be very neglectful behavior, for example, not following the risk compliance or the risk strategies, not following the reports that we sent out to them, and not being compliant with the latest law acts, for example, such as HIPAA, the Health and Safety Act, or PCI DSS, which is the Payment Card Information System. So overall, to make this short, if they don't follow compliance, they do not follow our warnings and risk assessments, it is quite a potential scenario of this damage happening.
And it's a circular problem, the way we see it, right? Because if you're not going to take care of the threats, you're going to have cybersecurity attacks. And if you have the cybersecurity attacks on these kind of mainframes and infrastructures that are out there, for instance, the solar power systems and the windmill systems that are supposed to be harnessing natural sources of energy. And if these get shut down, then we have to go back to depending on fossil fuels, right? And the more we are going to do that, the more we are going to try and use, again, technology and systems. So as I mentioned, very circular and very impactful when it comes to climate change, something that we don't think about necessarily. I'm going to now open the floor to Mustafa. Mustafa, you being from a non-IT background, what was your take on the presentation that Sami just did?
So first of all, it was really, really insightful. Honestly, half of the things that I heard that you told, I knew base level, but then the extent of it and how deep it actually goes was honestly amazing to hear. So thank you for that. But when we look at it from a sustainability point of view, we always think, okay, electronics bad. We think of, digitalization awful. It's going to take us away from the actual issues. It's going to cause more harm, more, carbon emissions because of the need for XYZ grid lines. But then when we look at the actuality of it, a lot of times AI technology and the security industry in cyber spaces is so integral to protecting how we can actively be sustainable. It's the way in which our resources are allocated is how we can actively use these facets to actually be sustainable. So all the things about protecting the grid lines, cybersecurity of reporting systems, like all these are extremely important, especially like we're talking about like greenwashing or like any issues like environmental terrorism. All these things are very, very big facets that cybersecurity plays a very big vital role in. And it's sad that a lot of times when we look at the aspects, people think, okay, the only way to actually be sustainable is to plant a tree, is to use this or use that. But then the way that information technologies actually do participate in protecting the cyberspaces and the environmental spaces is so vital that I think like it's people like Sammy who are able to like advocate and show the awareness, and I think it's honestly amazing. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mustafa, for that as well. And thank you, Sami, for that very insightful, very technical, bringing in that very technical aspect to the discussion today. So with that, we move to, again, we are shifting gears completely again. So now we are looking at women and girls in STEM and climate change. So Akshita is our next speaker. So Akshita Bhatia, she's a third-year computer science big data student at our university. She blends versatility with a keen understanding of technology's social impact. Eager to broaden her knowledge, she actively participates in various events, showcasing her leadership prowess and holistic problem-solving skills. Akshita is poised to make meaningful contributions to the ever-evolving realm of computer science. Over to you, Akshita.
Thank you very much. So, in fact, this topic has been done quite recently. Just today morning, few of us were there. I was one of them speaking. So I'll just highlight a few important points, not just from what I spoke, but also I had the pleasure of meeting other fellow women, successful women who brought some quite interesting points as well. So one thing when we talk about women in STEM and climate change, personally, I wondered what the connection would be. And that's when I came to know that according to certain statistics, when a natural disaster happens because of climate change or any climate disaster, around 80% of the demographic that are severely affected are women. And it is also, there's a predictive statistics given by one of the fellow speakers in the COP28 session, saying that around 70% of women will most likely not survive if there was any climate disaster. So considering this connection is quite important, because when we have these huge organizational events like COP28, it's not just about talking about, oh, there's a climate disaster, what are we going to do? Which is mostly what all of you, by the way, wonderfully spoken about, these wonderful topics about climate change. I think we all understand and identify that it's not just talking, it's about putting action and implementing it. So these implementations come in the form of strategies. And when we talk about these implementation, we also need to understand and take into other people's demographic, biology, and physiology into consideration, and that includes women and children. So I'll just move on with what I've spoken. I believe that as a representative of the other 50% women breaking barriers in STEM, I believe according to UNICEF, globally 18% of the girls in tertiary education, they pursue STEM compared to 35% of boys. And overall, 40% of women comprise of the STEM workforce. Unfortunately, as we go on to more niche and specialized career branches and industries, the statistics, the percentage decreases from 40 to 30 to 10 and 5. So as a woman in STEM, I can say that there are 3 major hurdles that unfortunately women face till today, despite the progress that we make. One is the stereotype that STEM belongs exclusively to men. And this kind of discourages women and young girls actually from exploring their passions for these fields. And whether this could be explicit or implicitly, it still affects and knowingly and unknowingly shape their experiences and their thought processes. So despite having a supportive background, because of implicit influences, example of media, which was brought in by another journalist, a fellow female journalist in the COP28 session, it influences these young minds. And despite having all this support and everything, internally you feel, I am not meant for this, and that kind of hinders it. Then the second hurdle is the lack of role models. So we all can understand that there is a gender gap. We all can identify and agree to it. And because of this gender gap, there is a lack of female role models, the underrepresentation of women in STEM, which signifies that there are fewer mentors and fewer success stories for us to be inspired from. The third hurdle is that gender biases that kind of linger in educational institutions and in workplaces. So sometimes if you're a woman, you would often be underestimated, overlooked, and sometimes discouraged. But the good thing is that this whole narrative of undermining women in a particularly male dominated field of career and education, that narrative is changing, it's evolving, because women show their worth through hard work and dedication. They show that every woman that takes STEM, it creates a path for those that can confidently tread on. At the end of the day, climate change is not just about talking, it's about creating policies, designing technologies, and implementing strategies to mitigate the impact of climate change. And we need diverse voices that includes women, because the other 50% is not just a statistic, it's a movement, it's a call to action. It's about recognizing and proving that intellect knows no gender. And for that, we should include more people, not just women, but everyone from every background and every place, to have a more holistic approach to a sustainable tomorrow. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much, Akshita, for bringing in a very different angle to the conversation of climate change. And you're right. It's really scary to see the statistics about women and girls and the level to which they are victims of climate change. They're being displaced, they are facing poverty, they're even facing death. And unfortunately, we are still just 1/3 of all researchers in the space of sustainability and climate change. We only represent 1/3 of scientists. And the whole problem, I think, is that for instance, and again, I think this example was discussed, that the first generation of seat belts that were designed by men. They were tested on men. So when women and children actually use these seat belts, that actually led to deaths, because the scientists never took into consideration there could be a different dimension, something as simple as that, you know. I don't know if you guys remember, in 2019 there was this huge story about these two girls who were studying in one of the universities in UAE, and they saw the workers in the heat, and then they went back and they designed a suit which was going to be cooling from the inside, right? So it's these kind of solutions that girls can bring to the table. That's missing, and it is missing. If we are just 1/3, obviously we are only representing 1/3 of the solutions that are out there. So imagine if we had an equal playing field, which is 50-50, the kind of innovations that we would see, the kind of empathy and the leadership that we would see in corporate sectors as well. So thank you so much, Akshita, for that. Mustafa, thoughts?
Yeah, so like a lot of the times when it comes to like practices of like sustainability, like the honest to God, the most that I can think of is like my mother, who's always like, "Oh, don't throw away plastic bag. Reuse it. Reuse for trash. Oh, okay. We have food waste. Okay, there's plants outside." So it's like the nurturing nature and like the intellectuality that like women possess within society is so overlooked. It's seen as an element that people can use for diversity, but then it's that same diversity that's not explored more, which is what like allows for that disconnect for women to actually be represented. Because it's the communication and it's like the way in which like different minds can bring different solutions to different problems, that like if you only have 1/3 being the men, and when like the same holistic approach and the same standardized like gender roles are there, it's like you don't get the same solutions, you just get the same problems. And when we need that diversity to actually show and shine through, and like Akshita mentioned, that like most of the victims of climate disasters are women because of their needs, because of their different biological nature. It's like if we do not represent them in the same solutions that we're trying to like save them from, then how can we actively participate in having an equal way of climate action?
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, so well said. They're clapping, you know, I feel like clapping. Okay, we still have time for one more question or comment. Who would like to take the opportunity? I don't know if Dr. Stephen is there. No? Okay. How about Vidhi?
Yes, Dr. Zeenat, I really enjoyed Akshita's presentation, and it gave me a whole new perspective into how underrepresented we women are in certain. And I do know, Dr. Zeenat, that you are playing a very active role in, promoting and enhancing the importance of women in STEM. And I just feel that we need more people like you and Akshita now. Because yes, and I loved what Mustafa said about the nurturing role of women. I think we're an important stakeholder as well, right? And
Very
if we're
important.
underrepresented,
We're the other 50%.
yes, we're the other 50%. And I think there's so much that women can do, and we just need the opportunities to prove ourselves.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for that insight. With that, we move to the last presentation of today's session, where we are going to again shift gears a little. We went from business to looking at education to looking at women, and now we're going to look at engineering. Oh, and we looked at IT as well. So we have Dr. Carol Sikora, who is the assistant professor at the School of Engineering at University of Wollongong in Dubai. He leads the civil engineering program here. He obtained his PhD from the Glasgow Caledonian University in UK in collaboration with, I'm not going to be able to read that. That's a French name, sorry.
École supérieure travaux publics.
L'école, okay, you said it. Thank you.
ESTP.
Thank you so much, Doctor. So Dr. Sikora is an enthusiast of a research-led teaching style and has gained a number of teaching experiences since 2009 as a subject coordinator, 5 different universities in Europe and Asia. He has been module leader for several modules related to sustainable materials, construction technology, and mechanics in the aforementioned universities. So we are really excited, Dr. Carol, to listen to you about sustainable materials, construction technology, and mechanics in this space. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So I'm not the woman, but I have a female name considered by many. Let me be quick since I have a few minutes, but in this period, much can happen. For example, the amount of concrete used is, as we are building 30,000 of Burj Khalifa every year. It's like the new Burj Khalifa is built every 15 minutes in the world. So half of the Burj Khalifa will be built before I finish. Therefore, concrete is the single most widely used material in the world. We use more concrete than anything else, perhaps except the water. But concrete uses water as well. And since the beginnings of 20th century, concrete is the most common construction material. It is composite made of aggregates and sand bonded together with a fluid cement. And this cement reacts with the water, creating a type of a glue that hardens over time. A growing trend exists in the cement production, and we recently achieved 4 million tons, and process of production of cement is energy intensive. It requires burning materials in very high temperatures, which causes the CO2 emission. When we look at the various industries, the biggest contributor to the greenhouse gases is manufacturing. And within manufacturing, cement as a single product, and then steel uses as well, which is used for the reinforcement of concrete. We can identify 3 major approaches for the construction sector to mitigate climate change: reduce concrete in the buildings, reduce cement in concrete, and more efficient use of the building. And I will provide some of the potential solutions which are in the line of this. So one of the approaches for cement reduction is utilize the slag or fly ash, partly substituting energy-consuming cement. Slag or ash are industrial bioproducts which disposal can be harmful. Therefore, their utilization instead of cement is beneficial in 2 ways. It reduces the amount of disposal and limits the demand for the cement production. But what about the Mother Nature product? Wood is a great carbon sequester, and 1 cubic meter of wood will store 1 ton of the CO2. Timber is the material that addresses both major requirements to mitigate climate change, reduces emission, and provides the storage for CO2. Therefore, the usage of timber for construction is even not carbon neutral, it's carbon negative. And the material that is revolutionizing the construction industry, potentially making the 21st century the century of timber, is cross-laminated timber. This is a prefabricated multi-layer engineered panel made of wood, manufactured from layers of boards by gluing their surfaces together with an adhesive under pressure. And the crosswise orientation results in excellent strength, rigidity, and stability. And this dotted line is not the property prices trend, or not only, we also observe exponential growth in the heights of timber multi-story buildings. We are somewhere in the middle, around 80 meters, 20-story timber building now in USA. Now a few words about using the buildings more efficiently. Thermal energy storage as a part of the building fabric can be used to increase the energy efficiency. Heat can be absorbed during the day and released during the night by the means of the phase change material that is part of the building. However, energy for heating or cooling is considered to be low grade. High grade is electrical energy. Concepts of using solar cells as part of building fabric bring new opportunities, as this energy can be used for anything really. So as indicated by the King Charles, who visited our campus during the recent COP, or now the COP28, it seems that we are observing and we are part of the sustainability revolution happening right now. So from the perspective of the construction, it was established at the COP28 that the building breakthrough, near zero and resilient buildings, the new normal by 2030. The cement breakthrough, to make clean cement the preferred choice in global markets, with near zero emission cement production established and growing in every region of the world by 2030. A playbook for nature positive infrastructure development, the Worldwide Fund and the International Federation of Consulting Engineers spotlights the construction sector's role in conserving and restoring natural ecosystems. And the last one, Forest and Climate Leaders Partnership, Greening Construction with Sustainable Wood Initiative. Thank you.
I'm speechless. I'm so happy we ended with your presentation, Dr. Carol. I mean, you know, it really is an eye-opener for us, because when we think of climate change, we're thinking of environment, we're thinking still from our spaces, you know. But what you have done is you brought in the larger problem, like the building that I'm living in, for instance, right? Like, where do I go? How do I change this? So that's what's going through in my head, you know, like, oh my God, how am I going to make a change here? So I think it was really important for us to be able to listen to you and hear about this perspective that you have brought in. Mustafa, I'm dying to hear your comments.
Yeah, so like obviously I feel like when you're constructing a house or a building, it's important to see the environmental impacts, because when you're trying to get tenants or people to live in those houses, the importance of the ecosystem around it is extremely important as well, since they're going to be living only in the house but in the nearby region. So a big thing that I remember that I just like thought of right now is that how AI technologies and 3D printing is such a big part of now building homes, and a lot of places within a lot of countries, they're now using these sustainable materials. They're using for example, recycle plastic. They're using wood to actually 3D print and make homes at a faster rate and lower like greenhouse gas emissions. So I think it's important that engineering is a very big part of how we are able to be sustainable, because whenever we look at a lot of the topics spoken about today, it's very inaccessible to us as students and as like climate actioners, that we need to be able to participate in every aspect of sustainability rather than just, okay, how can we as students do what we want? It's including every version of advocacy that we can to actively not only market the solutions, engineer how to solve these solutions and these problems, and also be able to see how we can use technology to actively participate and be like change makers, how to be sustainable in everyday actions.
Absolutely. And Dr. Carol, I have a question. And I think this is something Vesila definitely addresses when we are talking about fast fashion, for instance, right? We talk about ethical fashion and how that is so expensive. So automatically people veer towards fast fashion because it's much cheaper. So in the construction industry, is it like that? Is it these examples that you have given of the sustainable materials that can be used for greening purposes in terms of construction, are they more expensive to use than the normal cement and steel and aluminum and everything else?
Yeah, very good point. And construction industry, one of the biggest industry in the world, depending how you measure that, sometimes second, sometimes first, sometimes third. So huge money, and no one wants to lose the money. And this solution I'm showing, that it's like, I would say, beginning. So in some situations, in most of the situations, are more expensive. However, in certain situations, they are cheaper. That's why we have 20-story timber building. It's in the situation where the labor is, for example, costs are high, because you use less labor for the timber building, which is much lighter, less people are needed, less equipment is needed. Also in places where there is difficult access to the construction site, mountains, where you need to bring heavy materials. So this is in terms of the timber. So so if I look at the material to material, timber is more expensive than concrete. But if I look at the overall process, so there are situations where the timber building is cheaper than the concrete building. And with the development of technology, actually, this is becoming more accessible.
Wow, oh, that's amazing. And are they more environment resistant in terms of heat, cold, summer, rain, snow, all of that?
Good point. So timber is better insulator than concrete because you have the it's lower density, it's lighter, so you have more you have more air inside. Air is good insulator. So in terms of heat insulation, it's better. So this is advantage. We don't need to add higher levels of insulation. So you get extra benefits. So as well, decreasing the cost, decreasing potentially the cost of the operation, because you utilize the building for 30, 50 years as well. In terms of, maybe you touched that as well, durability, so how long it can last. So there are the timber buildings still built 1,400 years back in Japan, pagodas for 5-story buildings still existing. So this is not an issue.
That's not an issue. Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Carol, for that very insightful presentation and insight into something that most of us are using. Of course, we're all living in buildings, but we're so unaware, so unaware. So thank you so much for taking them. I know you're traveling and you made the time to still join. Thank you so much for that. With that, we have actually come to the end of our first WowMates, which is Wollongong Climate Symposium. We are hoping that we can make this into an annual thing with the help of all the students taking the initiative to kind of keep doing this every year, like a check at the end of the year. What all have we done? What all are the kind of things that the students did, the university did, the faculty did, kind of bringing it together so that, we can keep this conversation going, keep the awareness going. I think we had some excellent presentations. We started with, of course, Mustafa giving us an overview of what the university has been doing in terms of the students, the staff, the building, and of course, the management itself. Then we moved on to looking at the business side of things. We looked at CSR and ESG with Dr. Shu, why it's so important to think about stakeholders. We moved to ethical fashion, thinking about how we can move away from fast fashion so that we can, limit what goes into the landfills. We moved from there to looking at marketing, particularly looking at marketing technologies and how they can actually help with sustainability. And the kind of trends and best practices at the same time, the double-edged sword that Vidhi brought in. So thank you, Vidhi, so much for that. We moved track and we looked at education. We wanted to look at gamification as a tool for raising awareness, thinking about educating students, but at the same time, again, a double-edged sword where we know it can lead to greenwashing. So Mina did a good job of pointing that out to us when she was doing that discussion. We talked about cybersecurity and climate change, two things that I think nobody puts together, but should more and more. Sami did such an amazing job of opening our eyes about the kind of risks that exist in the space of climate change, mitigating, solutions that are out there, and how, the grids that are there, the interconnectedness that is there, and all of that is actually open to cyber threats if we are not more careful, and how that can lead to more devastation in terms of the fight that we're doing against climate change. So thank you so much, Sami, for that. We moved track again completely, and we looked at the gender parity problem in climate change discussions and sciences. So Akshita brought in the statistics that really kind of puts a mirror in front of our faces about women and girls and how they are the biggest victims of climate change, and yet they are very, very underrepresented when it comes to any kind of conversation, dialogue, or even, for instance, the policies and procedures that are being made to fight climate change, to save women and girls, but without having women and girls in that conversation. And we concluded with a fantastic, very scary presentation about sustainable materials, construction technology, and mechanics, and why it's so important for all of us to become more aware, I think, not just about the construction area. Now I'm thinking I want to start looking at everything else, or that I may not have thought about, for instance, that to link it with climate change, to go beyond our comfort zones, to actually understand what are the issues, what are the kind of footprints we're leaving behind, and how can we start making changes in our space so that it has an impact. Mustafa, the last few words to conclude the session today.
Well, I just want to say, obviously, again, thank you for everyone being here for the first WowMates. Honestly, I am excited to see how much we can, go on in the future and keep making these changes. And it's amazing how we are able to bring in different stakeholders. That climate change is not just a one-size-fits-all issue. It's an issue that spans across all industries, spanning from academic integrity, marketing, fashion, cybersecurity, engineering. Every aspect of our climate is being impacted or is impacting these industries in different ways. So I'm excited for the next one, and I can't wait for hopefully more people from different industries, different backgrounds, more diversity, more representation for everyone, because we all need to be the ones who are the advocates, raising awareness, because it's our future. We're the ones who need to take the lessons from the past, the technology of today, and lead to the future. So thank you everyone for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to all our speakers and, of course, to our attendees for making it here. And great conclusion from UOWD to COP28 as well. And all the best, everybody. I know you finished your exams, so enjoy the winter break and best of luck for the new year. Bye, everyone.
Thank you to Dr. Zenith for pulling this together.
Of course. Thank you so much, Dr.
Zenith. I would have then asked you to give a few words, Dr. Stephen. I thought
it was truly wonderful.
Honestly,
the way you organized it, I couldn't have enough of it. I don't know. This last 2 hours is wonderful. It was beautiful.
Phenomenal.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.